Hello again, this is Eric Miscoll with EMSNOW. I'm at SMTAi, SMTAi International 2019 here in Rosemont, Illinois. Just talking to some colleagues on the show floor and found an interesting one here in Misha to talk about, MacroFab. And why don't we start by telling people kind of the elevator pitch of who MacroFab is, what you all do.
Yeah, MacroFab is a manufacturing platform and a network of factories. So we help our customers produce anywhere from prototype to large volume production orders. But what makes us unique is that we're a digital first company. So as opposed to traditional manufacturing where you deal with salespeople and you deal with the reams of paper, with us you deal with digital interfaces, and the way we run your job is radically different than it would be in a traditional factory. In fact, one of our key aspects of how we do business is that we recommend to our customers that you never have one factory only, right? We make sure that we have multiple factory options. And that factory matching is one of the biggest points of value, right? Because in my experience, there's no such thing as the right factory for every job. In fact, you could have a customer that has 300 to 400 products and SKUs in their catalog, and there may be 5 or 6 different factories that are a perfect fit for those SKUs, and we help them match up just the right jobs with just the right factories, really deliver a much better outcome, because I think a lot of what's been missing is the ability to capture digitally, right, what the customer wants to build, establish that digital thread of information, right, which is a Industry 4.0 concept, all the way to the production floor, all the way to customer delivery, right? So we digitize all of that and we deliver a much better outcome. You know, one of the things that I think you don't hear much about is just what is the ultimate customer satisfaction in this industry, and unfortunately it's not very high, which is surprising to me because a lot of the people that I meet are great people, they're very dedicated to what they do, they're very customer focused, but are the customers happy? The answer is no, right? If you look at the Net Promoter Score, for example, which is a standard measure of customer satisfaction, you literally subtract the detractors from the promoters. The score for the industry is negative, right? And that's one of the things I think digital technology can really help overcome. Ours is in the high 70s, right? So that means that a lot of happy customers, what we credit for that is digital technology.
So let's get into some of the details on that then. So start at the beginning. So from a quoting perspective, the quoting is done by MacroFab.
Absolutely.
So you're doing that, and you're quoting manufacturing that'll be done in a partner's manufacturing facility.
We have 40 factories. One of them is ours. A number of them are owned by our partners, but we control production in those factories. In fact, we tell them, here's the kit you're going to produce, here's when we're going to get the kit in your location, here's all the testing you're going to run, all the test instructions, all the assembly instructions come as part of that kit, but ultimately it comes back to us and we do a second pass of QC on all those jobs, and we do the final delivery to a customer. Right.
And so when you own capacity, so you're renting the capacity, but you have to give them some indication of what you're going to use in the next week, month, or whatever, or how quickly are they?
Yeah, here's the way it works. And you asked about quoting. There's really 2 ways to get quotes from us. For small jobs, and these are prototype volumes of less than 100 units, you can easily go get a quote online. You can upload a set of Gerbers, or we support 7 different EDA tools. Upload them online, upload your bill of materials. We have real-time links to the supply chain, so we'll tell you, look, some of your components are going to be out of stock. You may want to choose subs. You can choose a list of subs, so you don't have to choose subs over and over and over again. You can literally get a price quote in about 20 minutes or so. If you like the quote, you can put it on your credit card. And we have people placing, $10,000 orders on credit cards all day long, and those become self-service orders. But we have more and more customers that are placing much larger production jobs with us, and those are negotiated agreements, and they work with our sales team. So usually the way the most companies operate, the most OEMs solicit their new suppliers is by sending an RFQ, and the exact same thing happens to us. You send us an RFQ, we process your RFQ, you can get a response in a couple of hours, or if it's a complex RFQ, it could be about 5 days. And then we send you an interactive quote. We talk about how many releases you're going to need. Some people will say, look, I need 2 years worth of production. That whole contract and that entire experience is digital from the moment we upload your RFQ into our platform. So a lot of our customers are saying things like, look, I don't want to turn my entire purchasing team into a giant software operation. I don't want them to have to learn new software. They really don't have to. They work with our account management team, send us their RFQ, and we're off to the races, right? So we book those deals, and we essentially will produce them either on our factory or one of the other 40 factories that are in our network. And it really depends on which job fits in which location, right? There's some things that are built much better in a facility that we own. There's some jobs that are much larger than that, and they fit into some of the best factories across North America. And that's where we produce. Our premise is that, look, I actually firmly believe this. You can do production in any volume in North America because we have access to low-cost manufacturing. So we have factories in Guadalajara and Tijuana. We have a lot of factories in US, and we have a couple of factories in Canada. So our job is to build a very large network of capacity all across the continent and give customers kind of a best blend of never having to get on a plane, still getting low prices if they need high-volume production, but dealing with people that are native English speakers and can move very quickly. Right.
So what was the qualification process like then when you were at these 40 different factories? I'm assuming when you began, you went out, you qualified them, you made your agreement, you're intimate with their pricing models because you're able to quote quickly. So, and is that then an ongoing process as well of continually monitoring and...
We have a very large pricing engine. So last year we delivered about 4,500 customer orders. That means that we probably did about 15 to 20,000 quotes, and that's a lot of quotes, right? I mean, if you meet any EMS provider out there, it's unlikely they're going to do that many quotes in a single year. So we are very confident in our ability to know how much manufacturing should cost, right? So we actually don't go and ask factories how much do you charge for certain things. Like for example, let's take an extreme case. We have customers, they'll say, look, I have compliance requirements, you got to be on my AVL, and I got to send an audit team out there. That's fine. We have customers that go and visit and pre-qualify those factories. They have as much control over those factories as possible. We don't ask those factories how much would you charge for certain things. Instead, we make that job available to them and we say, here's how much it pays, right? And they either take it or they don't, right? It's actually very similar to an Uber model, only for very complex and mission critical production jobs, right? So we're doing this on an industrial scale, but we have a lot of data about what pricing should look like, right? And we have a lot of control over it as well. If the job doesn't get taken, next job will get repriced. So those algorithms for pricing are always adjusting, right?
Yeah, and I meant it not so much staying updated on their pricing, which is important as things change, for a particular provider, but also just their quality and how they're performing on behalf of your customers.
So that's a separate process, and here's what we've learned in a span of the last 2 to 3 years that we've been doing this. We do a very deep dive into what's on the factory floor. We'll literally take down the name and model of their pick and place machines, what kind of AOI capabilities they have, all of their test infrastructure. In fact, we'll even write down the last calibration date for their machines. But ultimately, how do we decide whether it's a right fit? Those are all technology capabilities, right? We're not going to show a factory a job if they got to be able to place fine pitch components. If they have older machines, they can't place them. So that's just a simple software match. But ultimately, it's all about knowing what the reputation of each factory is, and that's something that we build up over time. It really doesn't matter to us how much we know about a factory. We can go visit the most amazing factory out there, but they start out at the same level. You can take a single job about this big, and if you do a good job with it, you can take multiple jobs. And if you do a good job with a string of those, you can take more and more jobs over time. And if you ever have a string of quality issues that can't be addressed, you disqualify and you start to see fewer jobs. So it's not a fired or not fired situation. Sometimes it's just a simple matter of saying, look, something in your process isn't quite working right. We give them a real-time feedback loop into, hey, that last job, we detected 7 orientation issues out of an order with 1,000 units, for example. Here's what we recommend. That's not a demerit against somebody's quality. That's just an adjustment, right? But if there's a string of quality issues, we've had factories that are just disqualified and are no longer part of the network. That happens, right?
So if there is a quality issue, because things happen in life and in manufacturing, their point of contact, what throat do they choke? Yours, the factories?
To a customer, we look like a contract manufacturer, right? So we are the party that takes their order. They deal with an account management team, the engineering team. In fact, they onboard with us. They go through an NPI process as they would with any factory out there, only they go through an NPI process with us instead of a particular factory. We then work with a multitude of factories out there to make sure that there's multiple factories authorized to produce their jobs. And the only thing we really don't do is allow customers to have only one factory in our network that's authorized to produce their jobs, which is very standard in this industry. There's a lot of people that are saying, look, I'm just going to work with one factory, and one factory only. They're the only people that know how to build my product. that's usually a crutch, and that's usually something, that's a good indication that there's tribal knowledge on the line that allows them to produce it. That is the opposite of what we're trying to do. If the only way to produce the product properly is for tribal knowledge with very special people that have relationships with engineers at an OEM, that's not a right job for us. And in fact, I don't think that job can be successful. What happens when those people quit? Or
the risk inherent in that is just...
That's right. Because we own the quality and we have a MacroFab guarantee to our customers, our premise of them is pretty simple. Look, we're going to own your job, we're going to own your quality, we're going to guarantee it. All we ask for is that you pre-certified at least 3 factories. We have 40 of them, right? We have actually best practice is to pre-authorize as many as possible. That way, if there's ever any issues with factories getting busy, we had a factory that had a lightning strike. They had a fire, and a whole bunch of jobs ended up being impacted. We were able to reroute them to other factories, right? That's not possible if you're in a single factory, right? So that's a hard rule with us. We operate as a platform, so we don't look at this as a point-to-point relationship between a product and a factory. It's really a relationship between us and a customer, and then our ability to make sure that it always gets done right. And customers have full control over it, but we want to make sure that there's never a fault-tolerant link in there where something breaks down.
So
right?
Is there any type of manufacturing that doesn't work on your program?
There's some things that we just can't get into just yet, right? So at some point in the future, right now it's difficult for us to do full traceability all the way from supply chain to the factory floor. We can do traceability at the production level, but the supply chain, that's a release we're going to do sometime next year. So we sit down with customers and we say, look, we have the following certifications among our network of factories. Here's what we're ready to do for you, and here's what we're going to be ready to do next year. So that roadmap is always evolving. But I think if you look at us 3 years from now, I don't think there's going to be any limits, right? Yeah.
And that may be beyond just North America at that point as well?
My personal feeling is that I think this has to be a smashing success in North America first, because again, I just saw a report that says that labor costs in Mexico are 50% what they are in China, right? So the reasons we go to China are a lot of times reflexive, right? We believe that it's cheaper. Everybody goes to China, and frankly, their supply chain is pretty phenomenal, right? So it's easier to build there, but is it cheaper? Not necessarily. Because we control the supply chain, and our supply chain is global, we'll source from anywhere in the world, and we can manufacture in Mexico. I don't think we need to go anywhere in Asia. So we haven't had a job yet where we look at it and say, you know what, the best place for this is in Asia for some reason. So does it need to happen? No, but ultimately, we're building a technology company. Should it be global? Someday, but I think right now for us, it's all about North America.
Okay, good. I could talk to you for hours here. This is good stuff. Yeah, no, I don't think I have the time, but I'm going to keep tracking this. We're curious to see. I encourage people watching this too to kind of check them out and see what's happening, and reach out as appropriate. But thank you for your time, Misha.
And one thing I think you would enjoy is we can do an online demo for you, so you can see what the customer experience looks like.
That would be awesome.
Upload a design, see what a complex job might look like, and because if you're pricing things out, literally, you want to know how much it costs for a unit of 1, 10, or 10,000. That's a couple of mouse clicks. Oh, yeah. And that's pretty impressive functionality. Okay. It really blows people away.
No, I'd love to do that. Let's do it. Excellent.
All right.
Thank you, Misha. Thank you.